Hi, everyone. This is Tom Grisak with the Grisak Group, and I'm here with Sean Elliott.
Hey everyone.
Sean is our team leader and head statistician. He spends a lot of time tracking trends on the MLS. And as we pointed out the first interview, we use a proprietary software that only two or three Keller Williams offices have access to, and it gives us more accurate information than a typical report that you'd find on the MLS, and that's why we use it and really love it. For example, if you see, 98% with an agent, they've got a 98% close rate to listed rate. That may not be the case. That home might have had a decreased in price 4 or 5 times, and it only calculates off the last sale price of that or listed price of that home. So what shows at 98% might really be 93 or 94%. So it's those types of things, bogus entries. Someone puts a home on the MLS at 300,000, it was really 3 million, or vice versa, and no one catches that. This weeds through all that, so we feel real confident with this information. Sean, you're the expert. Why don't you just start? You're going to be talking about Collin and the DFW area, right?
Yeah, these reports, it kind of does a broad stroke at first, just looking at DFW as a whole, and then it does break it down further by county. And so, yeah, we've got a handful of slides here from the Q1 report that are just looking at January through the end of March, and just looking at the trends across DFW as a whole, and then Collin County specifically.
Okay, so you're going to start with all of DFW first?
Yeah, the first couple just kind of go through the greater North Texas area. And Jason, if we're at slide 7. So this one has a whole bunch to it, so I'll try and simplify it. The first thing we look at is the blue line, which shows where interest rates are. Good news is we're down from where it was, a year and a half ago, but we're still at about 6.5%. So historically speaking, interest rates are pretty good, but when everybody has a short memory and they remember 3.5% or less 2 years ago, it feels like a lot. So interest rates have started coming down, which is good. We hope to see that continue, but they were down in the first quarter. The black line at the bottom is kind of the one that's a little bit more concerning. That's months of inventory, and we're up over 4 months of inventory in North Texas right now. We're used to that being a month or two tops. And basically what that means is if nobody else put their home on the market today, when would the last home sale? And so that's around 4 months. And really what we consider to be a balanced market is around 5 or 6. And so it's still technically a seller's market, but it's getting to a point where it's much more balanced now. And then the other thing here is if you look at the red bars and the gray bars, it's just a huge gap between them. The red bars are the homes that sold during the first quarter, and the gray bars are the ones that were just actually on the market. And you can see a huge gap. So there's a lot of homes that are sitting out there right now not selling.
If you looked at that chart for the first time, what would it say to you?
For the first time ever?
Yeah, in a summary.
Well, what I would look at is 2021. And if you look at the red and the gray bars, they're even, meaning every home that was on the market sold. Like everything that was out there was just gone. And now 2 years later, there's a huge discrepancy. So it feels so much slower because there's so much more inventory and homes are still selling, just not at the pace that they used to.
Right. In fact, we've had a really strong first quarter, and we're blown and going in the second quarter too. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I think it says a lot about how you advise your sellers, how you price, how you stage a home, everything that goes into it. This is not the market where you just throw it out there and hope.
There's a lot of competition out there, but the buyers are out there.
They are.
They don't want to take on problems. When they buy a home, they want to be ready to live in it and enjoy it, and not, unless it's a tear down or it's just bought on land value and it takes a tremendous amount of remediation. It's people want things easy for them, and in these price range, that's what they expect.
That's true. We definitely live in a world where people want convenience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, slide 9. So this one just shows the active listings during the first quarter by price range. If you look at the very right-hand side, you can just see what we were talking about. Inventory is huge. Just a lot more homes out there. And if you look at all the varying price points, it's up compared to the first quarter of 2024 across the board. So no matter what price point you're in, there's more active competition. So this one is showing the pending listings during quarter one. And this, I hope people view as a little bit more optimistic. I know when people see, hey, there's a ton of inventory on the ground, it certainly makes you a little bit nervous. But the question beyond that is, are homes still selling? Are buyers still buying? And this shows that they are. It's not quite to the same clip. Across North Texas, total homes that went into pending status were down about 3%, so a little bit less. But if you look at all the price points, it's pretty level. So I mean, the same number of purchases are being made this year as opposed to last year, maybe a little bit down in some areas, but buyers are still out there writing offers, which is good.
And you're comparing year over
The-
first quarter of 24
Correct.
to first quarter
Yeah,
25.
all this data that we're looking at today is comparing Q1 of 2025 to quarter one of 2024. And then on 15, so this one to me is pretty eye-opening. As you know, Tom, we work quite a few luxury properties, and so this is showing the months of inventory by sales price. And so again, it's up in every single category, but that green that you're seeing, that's still kind of representing a seller's market, where a seller in a way still has the upper hand. I mean, sellers are still having to compromise this year more than they have in years past. But once you get into the 5 months of inventory and beyond, that's really turning into a buyer's market, where sellers are just going to have to be very aware that they're going to have to make some compromises to get that buyer to sign off. And this one stood out to me because the million plus market is now officially in that yellow range, where it's more of a balanced market. That's the first time I've seen that. It wasn't that way a year ago. And then the last one on here is 17. And then the inevitable question is, I mean, with more inventory, but people still buying, what's happening with prices, right? And so this one shows median sales prices, and this actually goes back multiple years. You can see this all the way back to 2019. And so as you would expect, from 2019 to 2022, there was just a massive growth in prices. They were just up quarter after quarter after quarter. And then once interest rates hit 7% in 2023, everything leveled out. And we're just seeing that continue. So in the first quarter of this year, prices across the board were up 1%, which is fantastic. It's great to see them not heading in a negative direction. They just kind of leveled out. So that's the DFW as a whole. And now we'll go into the counties.
Okay, let's talk about just Collin County now, which is where we do probably 97, 98% of our business is right here.
Yep.
What's going on there?
Absolutely. So the first slide that we're looking at, before we dive into county specific, this is just showing the major brokerages across North Texas. And this is just, it's a bit of a brag, but this is why we're with Keller Williams. Just an amazing company, just incredible training and tools. And this shows it. So over the first quarter of this year, Keller Williams was the broker with the largest market share across North Texas, with about 10% of the market. So next one is slide 6. All right, now we're getting into county specifics. So if you look at the number of units that were sold, Collin County is actually up at the top, and the number went up this year. So we actually sold more properties in the first quarter this year in Collin County than we did last year, which is what you were talking about earlier. I mean, we've had a quick start to the year. It's felt like things are moving, which is great, and that seems a little bit, against what some of the data is saying, but in Collin County, homes are still moving. Slide 8. So this is one that maybe is not as quite as optimistic, but this is showing the median sales price for the homes that sold over the first quarter of the year. And in Collin County, that number has dropped. The first quarter of last year, that median sales price was $494. This year, it's about $477. And the reason we use median instead of average is because when you have those outlier properties, that average can fluctuate pretty wildly. So median is typically a better metric to use. And so just when you look at all the data in that point in the middle, that's what we kind of look at. So there's still some variation there, but in general, prices in Collin County did go down a little bit over the first quarter of the year. Those were down about 3.5%. Next, slide 10. So this is important to people as well. When you get your house on the market, it's not always the most fun endeavor. You got to keep the house clean. Got to get the dogs out and the kids out when somebody wants to come take a look. So the amount of time that you're on the market is really important to our sellers. And so in Collin County during Q1, the median days on market that it took to actually find a buyer went up quite a bit. A year ago, it was about 47 days. Now it's 68 days, so over 2 months. And what we see a lot, and Tom, you can probably speak to this, when we put a home on the market, it's like you got that initial 2 to 3 week window where you can get it done, right? If it's priced well, it's the condition's great, it shows perfectly, you can still sell a house in a couple weeks. But if you don't hit that window, you're kind of behind the 8 ball, and then
Right.
you better prepare that it's going to take a while.
Right. We've
Yeah.
had several homes in the last month that we had today, as a matter of fact. We had one that hit the market, and a day later it was under contract, like at 1.6. But we've got another one that we've had for a while, and it just went under contract. It's in the high twos. So, we don't know a lot of times where a home is going to sell. We have to test the market. And uh, the rule of thumb is if you're going to get good activity within the first 2 or 3 weeks, you want to hold it there. But within a month, if you're not getting much, it's pretty much telling you, at least at this time of year, that you've been too aggressive on pricing. And we encourage our sellers uh, to really think about readjusting the price. And if it's not moving within the second or third month, you're out of bounds. I mean, you're not close to it. So,
It's one of those things you got to listen to the market, right? I mean, the market's
hmm
going to tell
right,
you what it's going to tolerate and not. And after
right,
you've really put it out there for a month or two, and the market's just not reacting the way that you want it to, then it's a seller's choice. But
right,
our recommendation is you should listen to what the
right.
market is telling you.
And we never beat down sellers.
No, no.
We just give them our suggestions. And if we think that the home would benefit by a price reduction, maybe even taking it off the market for a little bit of time and putting it back on, we'll discuss that with them. But they call the shots. We're their eyes and their ears, but they make the decisions. We don't make the.
My favorite part about the job is I don't have to make those decisions.
Yeah,
We provide information, and
right,
then they get to decide what's best for them.
right.
All right, slide 12 is showing this is why this program is so important. So, this is where the data in this system is better than MLS. So, this shows us the median final sales price compared to where they started. So, this takes price drops into account. So, that has also dropped over the first quarter of this year. So, in the middle data point is saying that a seller is going to get about 95% of where they started. And last year that was 96.5%, so down a
Mhm.
little bit.
And that's all price points. Is that correct?
That's considering all price points.
Okay.
Yep, yep. Transactions with a price reduction on slide 14. That also is up across the board, every counter or every county. So in quarter one of last year, 44% of sellers had to reduce their price before they eventually found a buyer. This year, it's up to 56%.
Mhm.
So over half the sellers in Collin County had to drop their price at least once before they got a contract. So in addition to having some price drops, in a more balanced market, sellers are having to give what we call concessions, where they have to give some type of credit to the buyer. It could be for repairs. It could be to help buy down their interest rate a little bit. But basically, this is negotiated into a deal where a buyer says, hey, I'll give you this price. Here's when we're going to close, but I need you to give me a credit of whatever. So I've got a little bit of cash in hand once I actually own the home. And again, every single county that's gone up. In Collin County, it was 58% of sellers that had to give some kind of concession
By the
to
way,
get the deal done.
several years ago when the market just exploded, I wish I knew what it was back then, but sellers weren't even considering giving any type of concessions because they knew if that person didn't buy the home, um, and they couldn't work out something in the way of concessions, there was someone right behind them that would take it as is, and they'd waive the appraisal and they may waive the inspection. It was just a crazy market, but those deals they're long gone. So it's coming back to where we really need to be. Um, if you're willing to work with a buyer as a seller, you can usually get these things done. We've had transactions that started oh gosh, hundreds of thousands apart from the initial offer to the sale, and you just keep working on it and working on it. And our agents find a way to make it. So be prepared to possibly pay some concessions, but doesn't necessarily say it's going to happen. But it's very common now for sellers to have to do.
Yep. We'll go to 22. So this one is showing failed listings. So the homes that hit the market, and even though they tried their best, it just did not happen. And they ended up falling off the market without finding a sale or finding a buyer. And so let's see. Yep. Again,
Did those come back on again, or um, is
those
that
could. Now, I don't know if this data specifically shows that if these homes came back on during that 3-month
right?
quarter.
Right.
So they could be back on the market now, but either way, these homes fell off MLS without selling at
Okay.
some point during the first quarter. So
Right.
some of them could be back, some could not.
Okay.
But again, every county that number's up, and in Collin County, that was at 28.6%. So that's, I mean, it's not quite there,
Right.
but that's getting close to 1 out of every 3 homes
Yeah.
that's just not selling.
So if a home actually fell out in the first day or two of the quarter, that's really not an indication that that didn't really give it enough time uh, really to sell within that quarter. And that may skew the numbers a little too, versus homes that were on that for 3 months within that quarter, and those didn't sell. So we can inundate you with all kinds of data. You tell us what it wants to be, and we'll do it for you.
Man,
But it doesn't help anybody. We
well,
have to,
you're right. You can read data any number of ways, and you're right. That's a good point. A lot of homes that we see, they fall off January 1st,
Right.
right? The listing agreement went through the end of the year,
Right.
and then they fell off. So a big portion of that data could be this home fell off January 1st.
Right.
Now they're back on market, but either way, it still shows me a trend. Maybe not a 3-month trend, but a
Yeah.
6-month trend. That means those homes that were on the market
They just didn't
over the
sell.
fall, they just didn't sell. So
Yeah.
to me, it's still. These sellers went out there to price, they tried their best, and it still didn't happen. To me, that shows
Right.
what the market is doing, even if it's not necessarily in the first
Right.
quarter. So we showed in the first one kind of the months of inventory across all of DFW, and now this is more specific by county. And Collin County is still doing fine. I mean, we're still in the green, 4 months of inventory. That's still a seller's market, but it is up from last year. This time that was 2.4 months. So it's still taking longer. And man, Grayson is way up there now. Grayson's got almost 8 months of inventory. All right, so now we're diving into really, this is getting a little bit more specific, but we're looking at differences between specific cities in DFW. And so, like, for instance, the top one is showing that Allen actually had a 14% decrease in the number of homes that sold compared to a year ago. So Allen is not moving the same way that it was. Carrollton is up 20%, so more people buying out there. I found it kind of interesting. Salina, which we all know has been exploding, it's only up 2% from a year ago, so things have kind of leveled out there a little bit. But our specific area, we do a lot in Fairview, Lucas Parker. That was down 2.7%, so pretty close to level. A few homes less than what we sold Q1 of last year, but
And that's
pretty
such
close.
it's a small market too.
Exactly.
So one or two home sales can change the percentages of homes sold a lot more than one or two homes in Allen. So
Mhm.
we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, other ones that just stand out to me, Princeton is up 45%.
Yeah, huge.
A lot of homes selling in Princeton right now, and we that would make sense. Their inventory is massive right now. They got a ton of homes on the ground. Prosper's kind of eye-opening to me, down almost 16% from a year ago. Is that just price point, you think? I mean, is it just the amount of homes that have been built out there in the last 2 years? There's just too many homes to go around now?
Probably. I haven't dug into that. Let me say this about Princeton, though. If you haven't driven across the lake into Princeton in a year, 2 years, you will be amazed at all the development there. And it's right now it's the third fastest growing city in the entire country. So that that actually creates problems for Lucas too, which I'll be addressing at a later time. But all that traffic has to come through Lucas, South Princeton. All of that traffic has to come through Lucas to get to Dallas or Plano or whatever. So that traffic is impacting Lucas where I live, and I've seen it.
Yep. Let's go to 31. So this is showing the change in median sales price by all the cities. And again, you said this earlier, Tom, and it's completely accurate. If you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of homes and there's not a lot of sales, a difference here and there can make the averages look huge. And so in Fairview Lucas Parker, the median sales price during quarter 1 of this year was up like 22% from a year ago. And that seems great, like we said, but again, we just sold some more expensive homes in this
Right.
area, and so the numbers were skewed quite a bit. But I think this illustrates what we talked about, that even though things feel slow, there's a lot of inventory. When homes priced accordingly to what the market's going to tolerate, people are still buying and buying at good prices.
Mhm.
So it's not like things have fallen off. Median days on market, slide 33 by city. Everything has increased, almost. Most of them better. Northeast Dallas is moving a little quicker. Bluffview is moving a little bit quicker, but every other major city is just taking longer to sell. Let's go to 35. So this is again showing the change in the original list price to where they actually sold. And basically every city is down. We've got a couple that are up. So Highland Park, or University Park, Highland Park area, that's up. So they're still selling for close to what they were asking originally. Most of the other cities, it's down. Slide 37. Number of homes that were price reduced. What did Fairview Lucas Parker do over quarter 1? It's 4% lower, or 4% more. So basically 4% more sellers had to reduce their price to get it done. So it's not bad.
Mhm.
It's not bad. About what it was last year. Okay. Let's go to 45.
Let me
No,
say something real quick about Fairview, Lucas, and Parker. We grouped those together for a specific reason. Those towns are about the same size. I just spoke with the mayor of Lucas yesterday, and he said they're around 10,000 roughly. Uh, Mayor Lessner says they're around 10,000, and I can't remember what Parker is, but it's probably not quite that large. But so the towns all touch each other, or at least one town touches another town. Those are mostly homes on 1 to 2 acres because they don't have public sewer. They have septic, most of it, and that requires 1 or 2 acres. So they're very similar in that way too. And then, of course, the school districts. Believe it or not, there's 6 different school districts in Lucas, but there are only 2 in Fairview. So you've got so many similarities. We just group those 3 together, and their prices tend to be very close because the so much value is going into the land on these homes. So that's why I call it FLP, because for as long as I've been tracking it, those 3 towns run together. Okay, go ahead.
Yep, last one, 45. This is just showing the percentage of failed listings, and again, across every major city, the number of failed listings is up. Fairview Lucas Parker is only up by 0.5%, so it's about what it was last year. So that's it with the slides. But basically, what all this data tells me is that the market feels a lot slower just because there's so much inventory out there. Buyers are still buying at good prices. Prices have not dropped. Things are just taking longer, and sellers have to really think about how they want this process to go when they price their home and they get it ready. And so those conversations are extremely important. And another good thing to note is, I mean, this data, while it's good, these are decisions that were 60 to 90 days ago, right? I mean,
Mhm.
what we're seeing this data in lag time. So the people that are thinking about putting their home on the market, this month, next month, these conditions have changed a little bit, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we've got all the stuff going on with tariffs right now.
Right.
People don't know how that's going to shake out. Stock market has gone crazy, up, down, left, right. I mean, so there's a certain level of uncertainty going on right now that maybe isn't reflected in this data from
Mhm.
60 to 90 days ago. But again, I mean, if some of this tariff stuff gets worked out in the next couple of weeks, and we've got a lot of good, optimistic data in terms of GDP and everything else, who knows?
Yeah.
So.
And last thing, my point I want to make is if your home isn't on the market now and you're not planning on getting it on the market in a relatively short time, you're going to miss this season, the selling season. It used to be the peak sales months were June, July, and August. That's no longer the case. By that time, by June, a lot of those homes have been sold that you are no longer competing with, but it takes a buyer out of the market every time one of those homes sells. So by June, I can guarantee you we will start seeing a slowdown. It happens every year. And the sellers are saying, wait a minute, everything's perfect. You know, my home looks fantastic. Well, the buyers have already made their decisions. So I really highly recommend that you get your homes out there as quickly as possible. If you're not getting interest on it within 3 weeks, a month, then you're probably overpriced, and there's no shame in that. You know, a lot of homes do start out and the market won't support them. Our listings too. We don't hit it perfect every time either, but pay attention to what the market is telling you. And that's our job to keep you informed, and we will do that. Anything else, Sean?
That's it.
Okay. And Jason is running the board. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate your work. And we'll have another update for you at the end of the second quarter, which would be when?
Yeah, we'll get that data mid-July.
Mid-July. So hopefully you're having a great year, and if we can help you buy or sell a home, especially in Fairview, Lucas, and Parker, we call that our wheelhouse. We can help you get that done, and we'd love to work with you. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot.